welcome back. Amy Moonsong here. Today we're going to be getting into part 2 of working with Leo energy. This is going to take us into a journey into nature, into the cycles of summer, and how Leo is represented within the cycle, and how the fire energy and the development of fire energy is supported on either side by the astrological signs that are involved in summertime. It's going to be really great. You're going to have the opportunity to make some really cool connections that are going to help this information make a whole lot more sense to you and help you to see how you can sense it, participate with it, and learn from it in a more practical, realistic, grounded way. So let's get started. Now that we understand the foundations of how Leo expresses itself and the aspects of us it enlivens and strengthens, we need to take a look at the larger process that Leo represents in the journey of self-development, emotional stability, and the physical realities that these energies give to us when we honor them and bring them forth from within us. It's going to require that we zoom out and take a look at the astrological progression of the seasons of summer and the natural energies that come alive at this time. When we become receptive to the natural consciousness and intelligence of the Earth's growth process and the Earth itself, we begin to access our own innate mystical power to grow ourselves consciously. And why is that, ladies and gentlemen? Well, it's because we ourselves are nature. We are made of the elements. Our life force energy comes from the planet. So long as we are in a body, even though we are also a soul being, we are made of the earth, and therefore we are connected to all of that intelligence, all of that magic, all of that power, all of that wisdom. Now, our ancestors knew this well. They, in fact, developed the maps of esoteric systems that are simply mirroring the truth that nature itself shows us about who we really are and how we can powerfully exist in this world by coming into harmony with its cycles. And contrary to a lot of spiritual teaching out there, the physical earth is not less spiritual than any other element of being. It is, in fact, spirit manifested into physical form through the intelligence process of creative power. Thus, the earth, nature, and our bodies are living examples of manifestation through will, thought, feeling, and authority. If you need an example, just look at what medical science has discovered about how stress, which is either amplified or reduced by our thoughts or feelings, is responsible for disease manifesting in our physical bodies. While controlling our stress levels through consciously dealing with our stress in a healthy and responsible way promotes vitality and a much more balanced physical, mental, and emotional experience. We can see this concept of consciously channeling this energy in the physical world through our bodies to promote sustainable and stable beingness by looking at the King of Pentacles in the Tarot. And the King of Pentacles represents the fiery aspect of Earth, or the fire element channeled through the Earth experience. The King represents our ability to take authority in our life experience, the determination required to endure through the difficulties that come with the seasons of life, both symbolic and literal, in order to maintain what we create, to maintain our knowledge, our families, and our work or our career. So I mention him today because I want you to connect to the significance of blending the element of fire, which Leo is a part of, with the energy of the earth, which is where the 4 seasons play themselves out and determine what we're experiencing naturally. So I come from a long line of avid gardeners, and from the time I was 1 year old, I was out in my mom's garden with my hands and my feet in the dirt. So the season changes have always held this indescribable magic for me. And this is why I like to use gardening in the seasons as a very simple but powerful example of our own spiritual process or cycle of self-development. It's all there for us to see if we're willing to spend some time with it through observing nature and the esoteric systems that map out how energy works. So
I began to understand that it was all a map that would help me understand what was already inside of me waiting to be discovered, just like a seed that contained the potential to become a mighty tree. I understood that I was like a seed that needed the right kind of understanding, the receptivity, and the energy to break out of what was only a potential knowing of who I could be or might be to a blooming reality of who I am. And this is exactly the same way that a seed needs the right amount of heat, soil, and warmth from the sun, as well as moisture, to break out of its shell and begin the journey of becoming, which is fully realized in midsummer, which is the season of Leo. Nature teaches us how to flow with life and how to let life support us when we listen. Nature also gives us struggles and challenges that we must learn to overcome if we wish to survive and thrive. It's always been as easy as watching the cycles of the seasons, participating with them, and learning more each time you go through them, letting your mistakes or your triumphs become experiences that allow you to create a structure and a plan of how you'll work with and through each season that's yet to come. I had one of my most profound aha moments when I realized that astrology wasn't just a map of people and personalities. It was a map of the seasons that would teach you how to participate with the living energy of the earth in such a way that you could access the energy of each sign and move through the seasons and use them to help you grow. The symbolism we find here and how we live in harmony with nature is mirroring how these same astrological cycles and natural seasons are creating our growth process on the level of the soul. But it requires that we learn a sense of awareness and the ability to work with the elements of us that allow us to access or block our own soul wisdom. This is why the elements are so important on multiple levels. They don't just represent everything that makes up this earth that we're made of and which feeds us and shelters us. They also represent everything that makes up how we experience life as a soul and a body, by being able to think and know that we're conscious, by being able to feel and sense emotionally, by having an ego, and by having a body that we can act all of that out through, right? And this is something that we either direct unconsciously, which means that we don't really have the control and the authority that we should in our own selves, or we can learn to direct it consciously, which is what makes us more powerful, which gives us more authority to make conscious choices about how we're going to engage our life experience. If we look at the energy of summer, both physically and astrologically, we see a phase of 3 zodiac signs that have fire, the sign of Leo, at the center, that fixed fire. And this tells us that summer is meant to ultimately support the growth of our elemental fire in order to help us bring that aspect of fire that Leo represents into a more grounded and solid state within our energy and our life experience. And you'll notice as we go through all of the seasons of the year, that central fixed sign that comes up is going to be there. Each season creates the opportunity to either stabilize fire, air, earth, or water. And in summertime, it's fire. So Leo itself, again, occurs in midsummer, and it's right at the exact time that all of the summer garden vegetables begin to get ripe. The summer flowers are in full bloom. And what nature is showing us here is that Leo marks the time of the year when each of us has the opportunity to experience our own capacity to become ripe, to flower, to attract and inspire the world with what it is that we truly came here to do and to be, just like the plants and the flowers are doing the same exact thing. The fixed fire sign of Leo in the summertime is supported on both sides by other zodiac signs that help to ensure this expression as well as the grounding and endurance of our passion into something that's sustainable for us and for those that we share it with. And we begin this journey with Cancer, which begins on or around June 21st each year. And this is when the plant cycle goes from vegetation to flowering. But the flowering doesn't just happen. The plants respond to the sun, which is now brighter and staying out longer each day. And all of the energy that they've been putting into growing strong stems and full leaves up to this point shifts to begin to produce buds and flowers that can be pollinated and then grow fruits, seeds, veggies, or whatever other beautiful food that they're meant to grow. Now, the cardinal water sign of Cancer takes us into our first experience of being an emotional being. And the way that Cancer supports Leo by being this is by giving us experiences that cause us to understand, to comprehend who we are emotionally, how we have developed emotionally, how we've been supported emotionally, how it is that we do or don't feel safe, how it is that we need to be emotionally nurtured in order to feel safe enough to share how we feel, as well as how it is that we feel compelled to nurture and support those we love. Cancer is the moon, and Cancer really does represent the divine feminine and motherhood. It teaches us about the emotional boundaries and pathways within us that help us not to become overwhelmed by how we feel or by how other people feel. And we need this awareness in order to direct the energy of our fire and creativity. Otherwise, it gets drowned out or dampened down by too much emotions or too much empathic energy that can cause us to get confused about what we really want versus what other people really want. And ultimately, you can think of Cancer like the stage that we build through that emotional stability, through that emotional awareness, that foundation that Leo can then come on and express itself, right? As the performer, Leo now has a stage on which it can come up and have the big show. But without that emotional sense of self and the ability to emotionally maneuver with yourself and other people, we're going to struggle to identify first and then fully express that passion and creativity without the fear of what others will think or being overwhelmed emotionally by the creative process. And the perfect example is like seeing the actor up on stage and you can tell that they're nervous or they can't remember their line because they're too focused on, maybe what the audience is doing, or there's something that's distracting them. It completely changes the quality of what that person's trying to communicate. And you can really see that symbolically as how we're able to show up and express ourselves. Now, when we reach Leo season every year, there's usually some kind of burst of creative power or some kind of creative energy that moves through. And this can look really different for everyone because we're not all passionate about the same thing. So for a lot of us, it's like a beautiful jolt that sends a surge of passion and purpose into something that we'd like to express or create. And it's a wonderful time to play with creativity, to discover what you really want to do. And every time you experience Leo season, depending on your emotional self-awareness, you can experience more and more of your creative capacity and use the energy of Leo to continue to develop your fixed fire expression. Now, Virgo supports Leo on the other side of summer as we move towards the next cycle of autumn, right? So Virgo is a mutable earth sign, right? And that mutableness means that it allows us to learn how to deal with change, to know how to not be stuck in a rut of doing one thing one way. It's there to support the grounding of what you discover and explore, both in Cancer season and Leo season. So Virgo's earth energy is very much about adaptability and sustainability. Virgo helps us to refine our processes. It brings in a calming and intellectual energy to the passionate fire of Leo that helps you understand how it is that you can take this brilliant light of who you are and use it to sustain yourself and others as the cycles move forward. Now, we see this in the physical example of the harvest time, which happens during Virgo season. It happens after the big show of the fruiting and the flowering. where we decide which crops we want to eat, which ones we want to use to feed our livestock, which ones we're going to trade, sell, store to preserve over the winter, knowing how to take those things and make medicine with them, right? So Virgo helps us to enhance what's already there with that intelligence, that organization, and the discernment that knows how to put things where they need to be. And of course, most of us don't live in this kind of reality where we're this connected to the cycles of nature, but it really changes absolutely nothing about the fact that this process is what currently sustains the human race, and the ability to know how to properly handle your resources to first feed and then further enhance your quality of life. Now, the best practical example I have that can really weave all of this together, especially because we're dealing with the fire element, is the energy of entrepreneurship. If you have a vision to use your passion to start a business and earn a living by sharing your gifts with the world, you first have to have that inner stability and emotional balance, the Cancer, right? To direct your energy towards planning out a structure to your business that will support its growth and not getting bogged down the first time that somebody criticizes you or you experience a little bit of self-doubt. Second, you have to know how to show up for that business, right? You got to get up on stage, you got to attract your clientele, and you have to provide them with the fullest expression of your creativity, right? There's Leo. And in order to do this, you have to understand the strategies of time management, money management, that discernment, the organization, and the business savvy, right? The Virgo. And finally, you have to be able to adapt as things change, to keep up with the times. You have to know how to learn from your experiences and continue to grow and refine how you do business and how you express your creativity through doing business. And again, we reference back to that King of Pentacles because he's the one who knows how to manage his money in his life in such a way that things continue to flourish, even when there's setbacks, even when there's challenges. He's just there and he's determined and he is dependable. So you can see here how this cycle of summer through Cancer, Leo, and Virgo really brings us a tremendous amount of support, both literally and symbolically, in terms of how we are living our life and sustaining our life on the surface, out in the sun, right? Because this is the time of year when the sun is shining the brightest, and thus it is the time that teaches you how to shine the brightest. And I hope that this gives you a support system and an awareness that you can use to explore your own relationship to these energies, as well as how you're currently utilizing them. Now, I always suggest to people who are struggling with this sort of thing to take up gardening. You'll be amazed at how that process will teach you, temper you, and make you more sensitive to the subtle but immense power of the shifts of nature and how plants respond so intelligently to the sun, the soil, to water and oxygen. Because in the same way, we need those same elements outside of us and inside of us to grow and thrive, literally and symbolically. But we have an innate knowing, just like the plants do, how to respond to the energy of the elements within us to find harmony and equilibrium that leads to mastery and full bloom. Just like plants have that in their DNA. They already know what to do and how to do it. We're the same exact way. We've just gotten so far into our heads and we've given our power away to letting other people or systems tell us what life is and what it is about, that it's so much louder than that subtle but strong thrum inside of us that's telling us what to do, where to go, what choices to make, and why we're here. But we have to learn to trust the sun within us, our true selves, and let it become fully illuminated in order for us to know how to sense that pathway and how to follow it. And we're going to get to learn a whole lot more about that as the cycles of this year continue.
Okay, I really hope that you enjoyed that. By all means, please leave comments, ask questions. I'm always open to constructive criticism because I want to make sure that I'm able to help people learn this information so that they can apply it to their lives in a helpful way to become a more powerful being. And we have a rooster. I just wanted to make sure that I remind you that part 3, which should be coming out next week, is going to be all about the tarot cards that are associated with Leo, that are associated with the sun. We'll also be taking a look at the cards associated with Virgo and Cancer, since we opened up that can of worms today. But it's going to give you the opportunity to learn a little bit more about tarot and learn how tarot and astrology fit together so perfectly, and how you can use that to help to ground your own spiritual growth. So we'll see you next time. Reach out to me if you're interested in getting a personal reading. You can find me at moonsong707@gmail.com. You can find me on Facebook at Moonsong Tarot. I am working on getting my website back up and running, so hopefully by the time you're watching this video, that's already there, and I will put a link in the video. But yeah, see you next time. Thanks for being here, and happy midsummer.